Okay, we're ready for the third step. Again, this is Uncle Nelson. Uncle Nelson. All right, and this is my email. ASITISNP at gmail.com. I give you that email so that you can get in touch with me. And what I will do in turn is to send you a free copy of the book with the 12 steps. If you've never been involved in a 12-step program before, find a program and go to it. Even if you're just going to be nosy, just going to do some research, walk into a 12-step program. It's free. Don't cost you nothing. It don't cost you nothing. Being restored to sanity is free. Do you know when Barack Obama was in office and when there was all the discussion and fighting and battling over Obamacare? Do you know that Michelle Obama presented us with the best possible health care plan? When she planted that vegetable garden, when she talked about let's get moving, she was talking about self-care. No matter how much insurance you have, you must take care of yourself. And these 12-step programs are called self-help. I'm going to talk to you about the third step. But before I talk about the third step, because we're going to really get into a conversation about God taking charge of your life and your health care. But the reason I want you to walk into a 12-step meeting and come early and listen to the readings, there are always readings in the first 5 minutes. And one of the things that's always read is how it works. Now you can find how it works in chapter 5 of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. How it works begins with these words. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. And then the path is laid out. It's 12 steps. Now, the 4 chapters preceding chapter 5 discuss pretty much the history. Before How It Works was written, there was a lot of talk about the doctor's opinion. There was a lot of talk about the interactions between the pioneers, deciding whether or not we're going to admit gays, whether or not we're going to admit Nazis or blacks or anyone who doesn't think like we think or look like we look. The bottom line, the decision was we're going to accept anyone who's willing to admit that they need help, who have a desire to get help. There was a lot of discussion about this God thing, higher power. But in the end of the day, it says this is Alcoholics Anonymous, and we are going to talk about God. So I'm saying to you, this is Mental Illness Anonymous, and we're going to talk about God. When you sit in an AA meeting, an NA meeting, or any other 12-step meeting, whether it's Al-Anon, Alateen, if it's 12 steps, listen when How It Works is read. Nowhere in How It Works does it talk about a higher power. It talks about God. And whatever reason you think you walked into that meeting, maybe you think you're an adult child. Maybe you think you have an overeating problem, and you probably do. But that problem of alcoholism or that problem of drugs is only mentioned once. But if you listen carefully to how it works, God is mentioned several times. Higher power is never mentioned in how it works. So we're going to talk about God. The third step says we turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. So you see, when we use the word God, it is not my God. It is not your neighbor's God. It's not your mother's God or your father's God. It's God as you understand God. So it's nothing written in concrete. You got all the wiggle room that you need because it's God as you understand God. What is important is that you invite God into your life. It is important that you do it every morning. It's important that during the day, you remember that you have invited God into your life. In the morning, when you wake up, I usually reach out, outstretched arms, and I say, God, this is Nelson. I'm here. And God, I want to turn my will and my life and my all over to you. And just for today, God, would you remove from me my difficulties so that victory over these difficulties will bear witness to those that I will serve of your mercy and of your love. Thy will, not my will, be done. And throughout the day, when I run into situations that I don't know how to handle, I can pause and simply say, thy will, not my will, be done. In other words, I can reconnect. When you go to sleep at night, you're unconscious. Now, I don't know how old you are, but I will tell you this. The older I get, the more frequently I have to wake up at night. I have to urinate. And I learned a little secret about that, and I'll pass that on to you as well. Liquid in, liquid out. Water in, water out. I've had 2 conversations with older men in the last month, all complaining about frequent urination. And then I stopped. And I said, well, you know, when you're real young, you're told you need to drink 8 glasses of water a day. But sometimes we get up in the morning and we have 2 cups of coffee and a glass of water. Now, for those of you who don't know this, a glass is 8 ounces. But a glass can also be 16 ounces. When you're told to drink 8 glasses of water a day, you're talking about an 8-ounce glass. So if you're drinking 8 16 ounces of water per day, you're doubling the recommended amount. Water in, water out. I'm saying that because when I wake up, I make sure I reach out again to God. Now, some of you might say, well, you just really overdoing that thing. Well, the first time I went to Africa, I was in a Muslim country. And there's this gong that goes off at certain times of the day. And traffic actually stops. I had a Muslim cab driver. He got out of the cab, he put his prayer rug on the ground, and he got down and he prayed. I thought, why in the world would these people need to pray 5 times a day? Why do they need to pray 5 times a day? Why do they need to stop traffic and get out of their car and pray? Well, think about something. If you pray when you get up in the morning, if you pray when you eat breakfast, if you pray when you eat lunch, if you pray when you eat dinner, and if you pray before you go to bed, you've prayed 5 times a day. Well, the reason I found it so odd for somebody to pray 5 times a day is because I had forgotten when my mother and my father and my grandmother would say, get down on your knees and say your prayers. Simple prayers. Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. I have forgotten those simple prayers. The prayers that you will find referenced in my book, the prayers that you will find referenced in any 12-step program are very simple prayers. When I was real young, I used to go to my grandmother's house a lot. And my grandmother was one of my favorite people. She teased me, she joked, and we had a good time. Every night when Grandma got ready to go to bed, she would take her shower. She put on her white nightgown and a little white cap on her head with a little flower on it. Get in her bed and put on her spectacles and grab her Bible and start reading. Well, I had a choice. I could lay there beside her and listen to her read, or I could go to bed, my own bed. But sometimes I was still in the joking mood, teasing mood. So, Grandma, why you put those glasses on your nose and sit there every night reading that Bible? She'd have on her little night light, she'd have a Bible on. Why do you sit there every night reading that Bible? She looked at me and she said, what? So, Grandma, why do you read that Bible like that every night? 'Cause it wakes. It wakes. When I first walked into Alcoholics Anonymous, the very first meeting, a woman came up to me and she said, keep coming back, it works. And I'm going to say to you that 3rd step prayer works. You don't believe it works? Try it. There's a line in the book that said the only scoffers at prayer are those people who have never tried it. On the first page of my book, I talk about contempt prior to investigation. Before you hold prayer in contempt, investigate prayer. Say that very simple prayer in your own words as you understand it. But every single day, get up and turn your will and your life over to the care of God as you understand him. Use the word God. Why do I say that? Very simply because if you read how it works, those pioneers, those people who paved the way for millions of people to recover, use the word God. Sometimes you have to believe because those who walked before you believed. You want to be restored to sanity. You want to have good mental health. You want to get rid of the depression. You want to get rid of the anxiety. Believe because I believe. Turn your will and your life over to the care of God every day. And at night, thank God for another day of sanity. Thank you.